Well, it's happening one more time. We do this every week at this time, don't we, Trina?
Yep.
And for those of you just tuning in, my name is Scott, and with me is Trina Paulus, author of Hope for the Flowers. And we do this every Monday at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. We have a continuing series of Trina's front yard foliage, and you see an example of that right now. And if I understand correctly, you have some exciting news to share about a library exhibit that you've been actually working pretty hard on for quite some time, and it's about ready to get ready, isn't it, Trina?
Yes, Scott, it's hard to even carve out time that isn't devoted to that right now. But I thought we should start with this continuing thing. These are now indigenous in my yard. Where they come from originally, I don't know. But I thought I'd share this. It has become like a tree. It's a bush right next to my front porch. And there's just lots of it. It's like 16 feet high, and it hangs down and has all these white flowers for a short time. And they have a little teeny smell. And then this has a lovely odor. And this is a kind of a wild, what they call a wild, oh dear, forget the name, but you've seen this stuff. It comes. So this is that. And then I show you a couple of other things, and we go to the library exhibit. Okay. Oh, I'll show you my. Here's a little milkweed where I didn't get any of the proper roots, but I feel something here, and maybe we haven't lost it completely. So it's not developed the roots yet, but it could, and that would be wonderful because the way the neighbor's yard is, which I'm really welcome to go into and take them, there's all kinds of stones and things on top of it, so I can't use a shovel properly to get down in to try to get the thing with the roots, because at the bottom, the milkweed curves like this and has a whole root structure, and you want to get part of that. So that's the way it is. So that's my little milkweed. Now I will show you what I've been focusing on this week to pull. This is the thing I've showed you before. It's greater celandine, and it's an herb that is just fabulous for cancer and other great things if you know how to prepare it. But it has with one plant that I brought from the place in New York State, because I recognized it from the book that was describing it. It has made itself beautiful in my yard. Now, does it have any yellow flowers still on it? Well, it doesn't have many, but what it has is, I want to see if we can get a close-up of this, Scott. Do you see those? I don't know how best to show them. They're these spikes. These are all seeds. And they probably are getting ready. That's why I pull it at this point, because they're still green. They haven't popped yet. There's more. They're all over the place. There's hundreds at least on this plant alone. And it's really quite remarkable. They will then shoot out all over the place. And so next year I would have whatever I've left from other past years has given me about 100 of these plants growing sort of natively now in my yard. Now, okay, that's this one. Then there's another one that is a kind of garlic thing. If I chew the leaves, it's a little mild garlic thing. But look at its seeds. Can you see these seeds? They pop too, and they scatter all over. So I pull it also, at least most of it. I no doubt will miss some of both of these. I'm not managing to do much positive gardening this year, but my task is to try to make things not much worse. And the Japanese knotweed that's out there is just taking over, and it's just a terrible thing. It has beautiful flowers at some point. And so people have gardened with it, and it is good for making resveratrol, a very nourishing supplement. But it just takes over. It just takes over. Now, milkweed does spread, but it doesn't take over anything. So I'd like it to take over a little bit more, but it's not. Okay, so let's see. I think I've showed you my seeds that I'm collecting. Okay, we'll call that quit. Oh. I knew I had something.
One more thing.
One more thing. Just one more thing. This is just the beginning of what I'll be showing you as the season goes on. See this long thing here? It's just beginning to make some little buds. This is lavender. And it's just wonderful stuff. And it's the flowers that are great. And this is my third year of this one. And look at this long. This is actually a piece of the lavender plant. And it has these different spikes that are coming out, each of which will have a lavender flower at the end of it. So I'm just showing you the very beginning of this. This is something I'm very happy to have in 3 places in my yard. It is not nativized. Those are planted. Those are bought and planted. And one of the things I will try to keep looking at. But next Monday and Tuesday we'll be setting up at the library. So maybe we do something live, but I want to show you a bit of what the setup will be. The canvases will go up next Monday and Tuesday when the current exhibit is out of the library. But I have access to the glass cases where I can show some of the early processes of a book. Now, this is 1965. This is the original copy of a book called The Theology of Hope. And I don't know if you can see what you can see here, but this is a typical, my lettering style was starting to be used there, my hand lettering. And it's a Theology of Hope, and that's what I signed my contract with Paulus Press for. And it went through the ideas of Teilhard de Chardin, a great Jesuit priest who wrote about the evolution of the world forward and upward. And it's probably a reason that the Catholic Church has no problem accepting evolution as the way God actually made the creation. And the creation story that we usually use is a poetic way of talking about it. So I'm showing now here, and this glass case will have something about how a book was made. I have to figure out which ones I put. This is the page that some of you know of when Stripe the caterpillar finished eating and decided to seek more, and he came down, and you see the little guy right there. Well, to make this, there had to be color separations made with cameras, not like with Photoshop or anything, the way it was done then, so that there was a black plate and a yellow plate and then a green wash, and then little Stripe was pasted in. He was done separately and then pasted in. And some of these things, so the way we keep this old stuff from 1970, when this was, here are some of the pages of it. Here's my original watercolor from which the other stuff was taken by camera, like we all did with our negatives at one point. And then they had to be camera separated. Let's see, separation page. So let's see. Okay, here's the page showing the yellow part that isn't black, that then can be mixed with the black to make the green, which is highly unusual. But you had to use Pantone. The color combination has to be a Pantone Black 6. That's a black that does not go to red, but goes to blue. And then there's the regular yellow, that's conventional yellow, and the printer's yellow. That works for the yellow. But let's see if I can find a little Stripe, if he's hanging around here properly. Oh, yes.
This is very special for Hope for the Flower aficionados seeing these originals, Trina.
Well, this is little stripe on a black and white line drawing. That's not the same as the wash. And then we had to go to the publisher didn't want to do this at all because that would cost something. We didn't know what that green would turn out like. I just thought if it was a muddy, terrible brown, it would look terrible with all the thousands of caterpillars that ended up in this book. And like here, what if those were muddy browns? Be terrible. So we had to go and we had to pay for what they call a print proof. So I took some samples of the colors with the greens done with watercolor or whatever to a printer who had to then separate them out and then print them on a press. So that's a press proof from it. And of course, nobody wants to put that kind of money into all of this. But once we had the formula and knew what kind of black we were using and what kind of yellow, and we succeeded with one of my samples, then I could work for the next year. It took a year to make the color separations. That's how long it took. So that's we're going to put in a glass case. Maybe that one it's two because it's kind of says itself. But I get like glass shelves that the public doesn't get to. So we will put the display in, and I thought we could put some of the foreign books in there too. Like, just show you this. Like I just have one copy of the Brazilian Portuguese. These were actually published with publishers in Brazilian Portuguese, which is different than regular Portuguese, by the way. So that's one of them. I'll just show you a few. Here's the Japanese. Almost all of them are the typical yellow color, but the Japanese wanted this. And this is about crawlers. The head title is about crawlers. And this is a second edition. And this was done to help with suicides among the students of Japan. That was one of the thinkings, because the pressure of Japanese, of a number of these countries' educational system is such that suicides were a big problem. Like there were a problem in China that the Chinese edition was to help with too, among the countryside women whose life was so tough that they would drink pesticides and kill themselves with that. Now here's the Russian one. They decided to change the shape of it, which, because they, at that time, everybody publishing had to buy, you have to imagine buying, none of us are used to things of this size, something with 16 pages all together on one side, and then another negative with 16 pages so that you could print the front and the back, and that was a signature. So for Hope for the Flowers, that would be 16 pages of the black for the front, 16 pages of the black for the back of the page, for the other pages to make the 16. So 16 pages and it's 16 pages. And then you had to have another set for the yellow pages. So you had 4 of these huge 16-page things. And a publisher for these foreign languages had to buy those negatives with no text in it from Paula's Press and then strip in their own text. Well, because the Russians made this a different size, they had to take those negatives apart and strip in all kinds of extra stuff. So that was too bad. That was unfortunate that they had to do all that work. Now, those only the Japanese and the Korean versions are still operative, as everything else is. The rights have come back to me. Now here's a Korean. This is not the original Korean that we usually have. This is a special edition that was done in 2020 at the beginning of the pandemic. So this was not a good time for them, but it used the designs of the bottom of the English Hope and made actual gold on the surface of this beautiful hardcover. So this is just gorgeous, except communication is difficult when you work with a foreign language. And you see this little blackish color part, but she was supposed to be all gold because her stripe was striped with gold where the black was. And she was supposed to be all gold. The yellow turned to gold. And that was a communication mistake. I must have said it at least 6 times in my communication. But we're dealing with another language. We're dealing with an agent who then deals with a publisher who might not speak much English. So that's the way life is. That's just some of them. We have 15 translations that people could decide to read on during the 2 big afternoons in the library that we have a chance to have. We have a program in the afternoon, and we will have at least 33 canvases out in the wall, and then we'll have some of the things inside, like mugs. And this is a new bag we got. It's really quite beautiful. And it was interesting. I went to the eye doctor the other day, and she says, I'd like to get one of these. So we'll be selling some of those things at our library events in the auditorium. Now, most of the time, it's just going to be the hanging show that's there and the glass cases that are locked to show some of this other stuff. But this is a lot of preparation to do. And I have a beautiful team of people, mostly all volunteer, because I'll be hoping to get some more money into this whole picture to pay these beautiful people. And I would love to set up a workers' co-op as my legacy, but that's not so easy when it's most of what I have is intellectual property and a few original statues, like this bronze you see behind me of Mary Magdalene. She's an original statue, and I have some of those around, but it's hard to know how to do this, but I'm finally working at it. I met with the lawyers on this past Wednesday, so I think you can appreciate that I need to do that at 92, and I should have done it earlier. But so that's my life for today right now. So thank you for sharing it with me, and I'll see you again. And maybe we'll be able to set this up since we'll be at this time next week. We'll be at the library hanging the canvases. So maybe we can arrange to see how we can get some way of broadcasting with that. But Scott. I'm in New Jersey. Scott is in Seattle. So this is the way we work. And I'm in my home base and he's in his home base. And that's a little different than if you're traveling around at places. So goodbye for now. And thank you. And have a great week. And this is Memorial Day, when we think of the beautiful people we come from and who've given so much to us and to the world. Thank you, all you beautiful people who have passed through your big cocoons.